Today we are lucky to have a good friend of mine that I haven't seen in a while, but it's always good to reconnect, Mr. Leton Harding, who is the CEO of Powell Valley National Bank. Powell Valley Bank is the 7th oldest bank in the Commonwealth and was established in 1888. Mr. Harding has a list of accolades that are very impressive, and I won't try to go through all of them, but I will tell you that he has won the Young Banker Service Award and the Tri-Cities Business Journal 40 Under 40 Award. He has been with Powell Valley Bank since 2012, and he is very active in the community, helping with People Incorporated, UVAY's Economic Forum, Task Force, Birthplace of Country Music, ETSU, Center for Appalachian Studies, William King Regional Arts Center, Virginia Council on Economic Education, Virginia Economic Bridge, UVAY's board member, MECC Foundation board member, chairman of the Washington County United Way campaign, and Governor Warner's CGI Northrop Grumman Task Force. So Mr. Harding has been a community leader for many years, and we are thrilled to have him today to talk to you about protecting your finances and credit. So without further ado, Leton Harding.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, and I'm going to be focused, I guess, here to the folks in the audience, and I know there are quite a few folks who are out there. First, I want to thank the Chamber and the Business Incubator for giving us this opportunity to participate. And some of the things that we want to highlight today, if you will, just imagine, I want you to think about having both your consumer hat on as an individual. For those of you out there who are businesses, also think about, as a business, you also will use some of these services. So that's one side of the coin. The other side, of course, is oftentimes, as a business, particularly, you're providing these services. So the yin and yang of all this really relates to the risk that both you have as a user and a provider. So as we go through the presentation, there's some things there that I would like you to focus on. Second aspect, there are also going to be some links here that we're going to pull up or show you some screenshots. But there are a couple of links that perhaps we can provide to folks. There's one really in here I get very excited about. It's about securing your password, because how many of us have how many passwords? All of my 100 passwords are password protected on my phone. But again, how do you keep up with that? So, now, I love history, and I love to read history. And one of the aspects about history is that any generation, including this generation, thinks about the challenges that we face. And if you will, if any of you have read the books by Charles Mann, the first book was called 1491, and it basically dealt with what America, South America, and North America were like before the Europeans and all this came. And then, of course, he did a companion book called 1493 and what happened once they arrived. Now, what does that have to do with business and finance? But what I would say to you is societies have historically collided with one another. And the outcome of this was decimation of the Native American population, disease, and things like that, and the fact that a society that had superior armaments and other manufacturing devices took advantage of a society that didn't. Well, in many instances, what we talk about today in terms of you as a consumer or you as a business person is that people of a certain age, and Kathy mentioned, I won a Young Bankers Award. I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was. But there are certain things that we just assume. I can recall growing up that we never locked our house. We never locked our car. Those of you who are here with us today, how many of you didn't lock your car today? It's just something you do. So part of what we're going to be focusing on during the course of today relates to the fact that basically kind of what we have here, much as we had with Mr. Mann and this society colliding back in 1493, is a society of people who are very technology savvy, who know how to write code, how to do things, how to take advantage. And then we have another group who view technology to a great extent as a tool, like a chainsaw is better than an axe, but maybe put themselves at risk. Now, first, there's good news. Because a lot of the other things I'm going to talk about today may, cause you some concern and cause you to freak out. All the things that we talk about are curable, are doable, are fixable. But the key thing is it takes conscious effort on your part. It's going to take some work, and it's going to take some commitment to grow. Now, the other aspect here is there are solutions. And for every bad thing that's happening, we are having good things that are happening and have solutions. There's the proverbial joke about the two people, in the woods. They're hiking in the woods. And all of a sudden, a grizzly bear comes out. And they start running down the path to get away from the grizzly bear. And Anita starts throwing off her backpack. And I said, Anita, you don't think you can outrun that bear, do you? And she says, no, I just have to outrun you. So part of what we have to focus on in things, the little things that you do as a business owner or a consumer is the bear is always going to be there. But part of the reason we talked about earlier, you lock your car door is because if someone's going through a parking lot, they pull the handle. They could just as easily break the window and get in your car. Now, it's a little disruptive, makes a little more noise, but if they really want to get in your car, why pull on the handle? Just break the window. But that's what they do. They pull on every handle. Oh, locked. Unlocked. Let's get into the unlocked car. Well, if these things are so wonderful, then why am I so confused? Well, go ahead. Because the world we live in today is so much more complex. It's just that way. But on the other side, the complexity relates to the things that benefit us in our lives. So if you want to give up the complexity, okay, that's all well and good. But then we're also going to have to give up all the other benefits that we have gotten through technology and interaction. Now, one of the common mistakes that I see people make all the time is that, oh, I'm safe. I really don't have anything to worry about because I'm not on the internet. I'm not on Facebook. I don't use debit cards. I don't use online banking. I am safe. Sure you are. You really think you're safe because you don't do those things? So let's talk about basic things first. Before we get into a lot of technological things and things that create greater risk for us, let's talk about very basic things. I'm safe because I only write and use checks. No electronic for me. Now wait a minute. Let's stop and think about that just for a second. When you write a check and hand it to someone or you mail your bill in, what are you really doing? Oh, my name is. Oh, this is where I live. Why don't you drive by my house and see when I'm on vacation? Oh, this is where I bank. Oh, this is my account number at the bank. Is there anything else you need from me to steal my money? There was a great movie, and you probably recognize Leonardo DiCaprio from Catch Me If You Can. Remember seeing that movie and how he went around and he created all these fake checks and he would even get the paper stock. Remember near the end of the movie, he's in France and he's at this printing place so he can really make things work out well. Well, guess what? That was a movie, and that was a time when it took a lot of craft and the paper and things were controlled to do it. But I'm here to tell you what else can happen. Now, I'm going to ask the folks here and the folks who are watching online, I want you to think and ask yourself two questions. One, let's just say I approached you and say, hey, I have an idea for stealing people's money. And here's what we're going to do. One, we're going to get together. Kathy and I are going to get together and we're going to build a fake website and we're going to create some machines that we can skim debit cards and things like that, and we're going to take all kinds of money. Kathy, could you do that? I don't think I could do that. Right? Or, what if I told you, let's go and create some fictitious checks? And we're going to talk about how we do that just in a moment. So keep in mind the technological part of doing all those other things versus creating fictitious checks. This is a story from the Detroit News, and it talked about these 11 people who work for Blue Cross, ID theft and fraud. And I can't tell you how many stories that I will see like this about people who get basic consumer information, business information, and then to create fraud. Check fraud is easy. This is a bit washed out, but it's called B-O-M-B, shock.com. This guy has published an article, a series of articles, Check Fraud, what it is about and how people perform it. And in the course of this article, he tells you, Mr. Consumer, Miss Business Owner, here's how you commit check fraud and how easy it is and how within a week you can make $75,000. The reason you can do that is, although Kathy or I may not be able to technologically create websites or fictitious things, I don't have to do that. I just have to go to the Office Max or Lowe's or wherever I need to get a copier and get a copier and start printing checks. Why? Because you've already told me all the information that I need to know about stealing your money. The only thing that's missing here is, Jennifer, you need to just go put your checking account number and information on Facebook. Think about that. So, for any of you out there who say, you know, I'm not at risk, there's nothing to worry about, I'm not into this e-commerce stuff, well, guess what? We see at our institution, now we have other kinds of fraud, but dollar losses at our bank and at my predecessor banks have always been greater with paper-based fraud because I don't have to be a genius to go buy a printer or copier and make fictitious checks. So we're going to come back to that. So don't sit out here or out there and say, I'm safe. You're not safe. You still have to take precautions. Now, some of you are familiar with some of these terms, and I'm kind of going through them a little bit just in case people aren't aware. You know, this first one, phishing, has been around for a long time. Hey, would you mind getting me some water? And thank you, Jim. And basically what this relates to are emails, fictitious emails that come to you. Where, just like, you know, as a kid, you're throwing a line in the water and you're seeing what you catch. The neat thing about this for the crooks is they send out a variety of emails and say, oh, give me information. Click on this link. And what they will also do here is they'll make themselves look real. They might, you know, our bank email address is powellvalleybank.com. So what they might do is put, you know, powellvalleynationalbank.com or pvnb.com. Are you paying attention? You know, we often talk about paying attention in terms of texting and driving. Oh, we're very much aware of that. But are we very much aware of this? Another aspect is called smishing. And again, that's where you kind of combine things with text, message, which kind of does sort of the same thing. Now here's a newer one. It's called vishing. And this is kind of, think about Muhammad Ali and a hook and a jab. This is where they send you something in the email, and I'm a little bit nervous about that. I don't know if and then next thing you know, you get a phone call. Oh, Jennifer, did you get an email from us? And yada, yada, yada. And next thing you know, oh, okay, this must be okay, because not only did they send me an email, but they called me. And only nice people call my home. Right? Another big thing that we see are fake 800 numbers. And what will happen there is you will, on the face of a check, you get a fake 800 number. Or you'll get someone who will call. And I actually had this happen, Kathy, a few years ago when I lived in Emory. You come home and you have a message on the phone, or you have a message on your cell phone. Hi, this is American Express. We need to confirm some information about your account. So you call the 800 number. Hi, thank you for calling American Express. If you're calling to answer some information, press 1. Press 1. Oh, by the way, to confirm who you are, please enter your credit card number. Da, 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 da. Please enter your CSV number, expiration date. Thank you. And also, please enter, your Social Security number. Oh, we're very happy to report that there's not been any fraud against your account yet, because you have just given someone who you called an 800 number for all your information to commit fraud. And always the same answer whenever you push it. Oh, thank you for calling, and we're happy to report to you there's not been any fraud on your account. And as I said, yet. You need to be especially careful in verifying. And as the great president said, trust but verify. Anytime you get contacted, you want to go back and verify. We get a lot of fraudulent checks in our bank. People who win the lottery, the Canadian lottery and stuff. And there's always a number to call. Call that bank or that business to verify. We do not rely on anything on the face of a check. Again, I just told you, everybody go produce fake checks. We independently verify everything we do. A recent one is unsolicited text. Again, also what are spoof phone numbers. And this is something that's been around for a while and used to one degree or another in terms of legitimacy. But what will happen is I'll get a phone call from 276-628, whatever it is. And 628 is kind of the original number here in Abington. Well, guess what? It's some salesman from California. How in the world did he call me with a 628 number? He didn't call me with a 628 number. He called me from some number in California that spoofed a local number, because they know I'm more inclined to open or to listen to or to respond to or to even pick up the line for a number that looks, oh, that's a Chilhowie number. Oh, that's a Bristol number. And then again, we sort of talked about the fake calls. Now, I want to talk about some other risks, and now we're sort of maybe moving into more of kind of a technology front. But, and although I'm going to put up here some of the risks, I'm not going to necessarily address the risk just yet, because that's going to come a little bit later in the presentation. But one of the greatest risks is poor or weak passwords. And again, for any of you who just stop and think for a moment how many passwords you have. I mentioned to you a while ago that I had lots and lots of passwords. Sometimes, like at the bank, we will force people to pick more complex passwords and not use the same password or variation therein. But more often than not, many of the things that we do will allow us to kind of pick whatever password we want. So, if you will, all these things here, I would say to you, if you don't do anything else, really address this issue, not only for yourself, but within your business. Usage of PCs. Again, we're going to talk about that for a moment, but let me ask you this. How many of you, both as individuals or businesses, use one PC for everything you do? Let's think about that for a moment. Use one PC for everything you do. We'll come back to that in a moment. Access to info. A while back, I had to reestablish water service at a new home. And I walk up, and I got my driver's license, and this particular place said, "Oh, and we got to see your Social Security card." You got to see my Social Security card. I don't carry my Social Security card. I have learned that if I lose my wallet, I don't want anybody. Even the state of Virginia now changed the driver's license so it doesn't have your Social Security number on. At one time, we were required in the banking industry to put your Social Security number on the face of checks. I don't carry it. Well, we can't help you because you don't have your Social Security card. Well, guess what? Now I got to go back home, find my Social Security card where I have it locked up and separate, because one of the key things is limiting access to information. Another thing is password storage. I've got a great slide I'll show you in a moment, but it's all, you can have the most complex, unbreakable password you ever can imagine. But again, if it's just like your checking account, say, "Oh, yeah, I got a real complex, but here it is. Oh, here's where I keep it. It's easy to find." In terms of card processing, this is a growing area of risk both for the consumer as well as the business, and we're going to talk some more about that in a few moments. But this is another area in terms of the weak password. This is a close second in terms of protecting yourself, all right, and protecting your business. And if you're a business offering services, to protect your business from tremendous liability. Travel. Anybody travel? All right. You're putting yourself at more risk, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Online activity, which kind of comes back to the PCs, and outdated software. Now, again, this is maybe a little bit washed out, but what you can see here on this PC, it says password, 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 password. Not going to ask anybody to raise hands or anybody out there on Facebook to fess up, but how many of you have written a password down someplace where you could get to it? Oh, it's not a password I use that often, but part of the reason that I have it is because it's an important password and I got to get to it. So let's just put it on the PC. Now I can tell you that Karen Wright, who's our auditor, one of the things that she does when she visits our offices is she looks around the tower of PCs to see where do they store their passwords. Because they probably got 5 or 6. How many of us, now this is blatant. You say, "Oh, Leton, I don't put a sticker on my computer." Well, not anymore. But how many things that you do like this? Oh, don't worry about my passwords. Just open my desk drawer and that little book that says passwords on it. You open it to page 3 and there's all my passwords. And again, Mr. Crook, I'm not going to make it hard for you. Bank account 1, password. Business account 2, password. All right. Now, another aspect here is risk of travel. Now, let me ask you a question. If you're a fisherman, i.e. you're a crook, do you want to walk up and down, the whole South Holston Lake or the Holston River trying to fish? Or would you rather find a place where all the fish come to you? Well, guess what? A crook doesn't want to spend his or her time going all over the place to find you. Why not let you find them at Disney World, at Dollywood, at the beach? So when we look at fraud that's committed in places where people have greater weaknesses, what we see is, where are you going? Are you going to Opryland? Guess what? That's where the crooks are going too. Because why should I fish up and down the bank when I know a little hole where all the fish gather? Now, a little bit later we're going to try to pull this up for you. But if you're interested, this is a website, and I did a screenshot of it, that really indicates how much, and now we're going to kind of transition a little bit more into electronic activity and fraud in terms of cyber risk and cybersecurity. But this is called Norris, and if you Google it, what this literally does is shows you attacks that are occurring. And Amy, why don't we see if we can, well, we may not be able to bounce, at the end of the presentation, we'll pull that up. But it's really cool. If any of you are of a certain generation like I am, you remember there was a game, Jim, where you played a star game where the little rocket ship destroyed the asteroids and things like that. This is what this looks like. And I know I'm a geek, but I can sit and watch this for a long time because it shows where all these attacks, where they emanate from and where they go. And part of the stress in terms of this really relates to the fact that it doesn't matter if you're sitting in Abington or Marion or Bristol, you can be attacked from anywhere. Now, if you're sitting at your home, you think, well, I'm going to put the locks on the door, nobody's going to break into my house. And you're right. No one from Russia is going to come to your home tonight and try to break through your front door. But as we are here today, in this session, someone from any place is trying to get into your bank account. Is trying to corrupt your business accounts. Is trying to change the software you might be using if you're a business owner processing cards for your customers. All right? Now, again, separating reality from kind of the pseudo-myth, I talked to you about the person over in Russia who's trying to get your account. But let me tell you, in industry statistics, one of the higher groups that causes problems, again, we're focusing a little bit here on businesses, is disgruntled employee. Now, you know, we think about disgruntled employees in terms of the workforce, and you know, they're agitating fellow staff members, and you know, they bring their bad attitude in every day and what we have to do. But in this area of electronics, disgruntled employees cause us a lot of issues. Because guess what? You know, now at our bank, if a bank robber comes into our bank and robs the bank today, I can tell my insurance company I had X dollars and X cents in the bank. And I have a deductible. And after that deductible, here, Mr. Insurance Agent, Miss Insurance Agent, what you need to write me is a check. I can quantify my loss. I can quantify my risk. I cannot quantify my risk here. So in terms of employees who get mad and really want to put it to you, cyber electronic is greater. Right behind them, I guess what, are the careless or uninformed employees. How many of you stress to your employees, please, 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 please do not put your password on a yellow sticky and put it by the machine in the front where we have our sales. Well, boss, I have a hard time remembering it. It's not that big of a risk. Another aspect, again, focus more on businesses, is this whole idea of bringing your own device to work. How many, you're not going to probably tell your employees don't bring your cell phones or those kinds of things or pass, but what if they do? And what if they end up tying into your network somehow? And what if they happen to download a device? A real simple thing to do is to make sure that you have a policy. It's okay, maybe you do those things, but no, just because Wi-Fi is down or you're approaching your end of your minutes or time on your phone to watch the next cat video doesn't mean that you can tap into our network to do things. Now, the cloud is wonderful. We use the cloud at our office for a lot of things. But do not assume that because you're using a major company provide cloud services that you're not at risk. Because the maintenance of the software and the protection are there. They're not here. So that's another risk. Another area that, and this again is very hard for consumers because I find what happens is if you have some kind of device, a lot of the companies will only give you even their main software for 4 or 5 years, if that long, until you have to replace it. Well, we'll stay right there. But again, the unpatched, or here's something else, unpatchable devices. Now, I still have a VCR at my home. I never hardly use it, but I still have it. But there's no real risk with that. Upstairs in my office, I don't have a flat screen TV. I still have the big TV. I'm not up there that much. I don't watch it that often. So for my usage or involvement, it's okay that it's an older device and it maybe still has some utility, but I have no risk there. Part of, if you're using technology, is going to have to be the commitment on your part, consumer-wise, business-wise, that at some point, this is going to happen. Either the hardware itself or the software it runs on. And one of the things you can do, both as a business and as a consumer, is write down a list. Just kind of keep a separate list of things. Oh, here's this device and here's when I bought it. And from time to time, go back and look at it. Or even better, Kathy, Christmas time, slide that list over to your significant other and say, my pad's getting a little bit older, my laptop's getting a little bit, and we're at great risk. So therefore, you need to be good to me this Christmas and get me a new laptop. And another thing you need to be aware of is risk to third-party service providers. Now, for a consumer, a third party happens to be a bank. We're providing you services. But any of you who are out there who are using any other entity with your business, you're using a credit card processing company, or maybe you're buying some accounting software that helps you with your business and your billings. You're interacting, you go online for your health insurance. Again, these are risks, and part of it is kind of being aware of what those risks are. Now, if any of you here are a Christmas Story fan, as I am, my home, starting at 8 o'clock, Jim, on Christmas Eve, and my family comes to our home on Christmas Day, guess what's on? Ralphie is on, all right? And again, everybody has their own favorite characters, from Christmas Story. And mine seem to kind of change, over time. Ralphie, I wanted the BB gun, but my wife, Tammy, has been solid in his account. And Randy's the man. Randy will always be the man. So what does Mama do? Mama wraps him up so tight that he's not going to get cold or hurt or anything. Now, this is risk prevention to an extreme. But what it kind of highlights are, there are things that you can do to prevent risk. One of the first things that you can do is to make sure that you take advantage of alerts. Now again, here in terms of looking at this audience and folks out there, you can't tell me you don't have a smartphone. All right? Or even if you don't have a smartphone, that you get text. I mean, we have lots of clients, we have a service where you don't even have to sign for online banking or mobile banking or even have a smartphone. We'll send you for text alerts directly from our computer system that says your deposits come in, your balance has gotten low. Just plain, straightforward text system. But in terms of alerts, just like from Lord of the Rings, they lit the towers. We've been using alerts for thousands of years. Are you using alerts? Are you signed up to make sure that anything that can happen, particularly in terms of your deposit accounts, you're getting told about? Now, I'm not going to ask you how many times in the course of the day you go to your Facebook page and to see if Billy really did pass that test. Or, is Susie still going out with him? Or, what this issue or that issue. Think about how much time you spend wanting to be aware, wanting to be alert of everything else that's going around you in the world, and how much time you're committing either yourself or your business to be alerted about anything that's happened to your account. Again, if any of you have raised children, and you look and you say, oh, you look a little peaked. What do? You put your hand to the forehead. I need to see if there's something else I need to do. I want immediate information so I can make a decision. Do I cut it off here? Alerts, alerts, alerts. Now, as we talked about earlier, we identified a lot of risk, and what I'm going to do here is spend some time talking about risk prevention. How many of you, either businesses or consumers, remember we asked the question a while ago, use the same device for everything you do? How many of you use a different or dedicated PC just for banking? Right. Raise your hands in here so I can see. We got 2. All right. But Leton, it costs so much to buy a second computer. Right? And how many flat screen TVs do you have in your house? You have 1? All right, Jim, I'm not going to embarrass you. I know you got 12, including the bathrooms, all right? Think about that just for a moment. Now, we don't have to have the latest and greatest and state-of-the-art computer in terms of what kind of gig and how fast it processes and what the storage is and can I play games on it. No. What are we talking about here? We're talking about something that's standalone, that basically I can get on the internet, I can check my balances, if I want to transfer funds, I can do it, and that's all I do with it. It doesn't have to be a $3,000 machine or a $1,500 machine. It just has to be something, it's kind of like a spare tire. It's in the back of the car. It may not be the most expensive tires you have around your car, but it's functional. Now, at our work, what we do is we have all these computers and they're tied into the networks and stuff. But we don't, we have what are called white lists. And those white lists say that Jim or Amy can go here or there, and we've verified those sites and we trust those sites, and it's part of their daily routine. But maybe Jim needs to go somewhere else and pull up information about a community that he's reviewing a loan for. He can't do that through the bank system. But guess what? We have Wi-Fi. And we have little pads in those offices. And Jim can use that pad and go and look around. And guess what? If something bad happens to that computer, it doesn't really, we don't want it to, but it doesn't hurt us because guess what? That machine is not tied into our networks and can't download stuff to do bad things. So think about it for yourself or your business. Why don't you have a machine? And if you have more staff, they all know that machine is only for one thing. That's for our business. It's for, in addition to banking, if you have other software that you're doing on that machine, things like, but that machine is for one purpose only. It's not to go watch cat videos. All right. Another aspect is making sure that you use a different or dedicated card for online. People shop online. Businesses shop online. My wife has a second card and a second account that she does everything online. And right before she hits submit, if she needs to move money from our main account to her other account, she does that. Now, consumers have all kinds of protections in terms of using your card. It's called Reg E. So even if you did and something got compromised, you're going to be fine. Businesses are not protected by Regulation E, which is a Federal Reserve regulation. Basically what the government says is if you're a business, you're a big boy or girl and you should take care of yourself. Now, if your financial institution gives you money back, it's not because they have to legally, it's just because it's a good business practice. Consumer's different, business. So as businesses, this is maybe as important it is here for a consumer to do that, just from the standpoint, well, gosh, I got to go fill the paperwork out. My funds are gone. It's going to take me 2 or 3 days to get my money back. Yeah, it's a pain, you know what, but you're not out the money. Businesses are at risk here. How many of you, if you have a business, make copies of checks? I just told you earlier that people take check information and create fictitious checks. If you don't believe me, go Google and look at all the different stories about doctor's offices or the Anthem business of Blue Cross in Detroit, where what happens is they're making copies of checks, and crooks, you can go find, I think the going price is like $50 for a copy of a good check. When I say a good check, Washington County, a big business, something along those lines. So, if you feel like you need to make a copy of a check, I suggest to you that you take a look at, if you're a business or whatever, why not use remote deposit? The neat thing about remote deposit, you can deposit your check from where you are, and it electronically stores a copy of all the checks that you have written out to you, and it's password protected versus making a copy of a check and having it lying around. Again, remember, as a business, particularly, when investigations start happening and the police get involved, eventually they're going to come back to, well, where did Crook A get a copy of the check? Oh, well, I paid so-and-so, or, the cleaning person, or that kind of thing at business B, and guess what? Now who's on the hook? Not only financially, but think about reputational risk. Use password protection on files. Again, it's a simple thing to do. It's a habit. If you start it and you do it, it'll work out fine. Use online banking. Again, generally that's a free service. Again, any of you right now can pop up on your pad, on your computer, on your phone, check your account, check your account, check your account. A number of years ago, I was sitting in my office here in Abilene at 7:30 in the morning, and Tammy's cousin calls me. She's a school teacher in Norton. And I said, "Hey, Vanessa, what's up?" Not like she calls me that. She said, "I was just at work checking my account, and I saw this come in, and it's not something I did. What should I do?" And I went through the scenario, what you should do and stuff. And I said, "Vanessa," I said, "where are you? It's 7:30 in the morning." She said, "Oh, I'm at school. I always get here at 7:15. I get the classroom ready, and the first thing I do every morning is I log into my bank account and check my account, and then the kids come in about 15 minutes from now." Her habit, her process, cup of coffee, check my bank account. Now, this is something that some of you may not be aware of, and it's predominantly used by larger entities, businesses, but it's something that any business particularly can use. It's called positive pay. Now, many businesses don't want people to electronically debit stuff out of their accounts. Understand that. It's a little bit different, a business than a consumer. What positive pay does is it allows you as a business owner to give your bank a file, and many of you use some kind of software to create the checks that you pay your vendors or payroll or those kinds of things. It says, okay, here's my file, Kathy, of all the checks that I have written. Here's the check number, here's the date, here's who I made it payable to, and the dollar amount. Think about positive pay as sort of reverse stop payment. Probably everybody who's watching or in this room at some point has gone to the bank and said, "Oops, stop payment on that check." What information did they ask you for? Dollar amount, date, check number, and who you wrote it to. What you're doing in a proactive way, if you use positive pay, is you're giving the bank the list of all the checks that you've written. And every night, as checks come in against your account as the business, That's a good check. Let it through. Oh, wait a minute. That check 100, Kathy said it should have only been for $100. This says it's $500. Kick it out, and we're going to ask Kathy tomorrow morning to look at this check and let us know if she wants us to pay it or not. That's the way positive pay works. And again, for businesses who still write a lot of checks, and again, remember that what crooks love to do is to come into towns and find out who are well-known businesses, who are successful businesses, because they know if they create those fictitious checks, that banks or others will accept them and will cash the checks. And the other aspect is in terms of checking the credit. And we're going to talk more about that in a moment. Now, remember a while ago we showed you the picture of all the fish gathering, and we really stressed to you how crooks want you to come to them? Well, let's take a moment here and talk about risk prevention and travel and online. Please, please, please make sure that your card companies or your banks have your cell phone number. I can't tell you how many times we have gotten alerted that there's fraud on someone's account, on Nita's account. And then we call the only number we have. And guess what? That number is her home number. Hi, thank you. I'm Nita. I'm away for about 3 weeks in Florida. So, thanks for calling. I'll call you when I get back. Versus, and the reason that we call Anita is because she just used her card somewhere in Florida 2 days ago. They've already created a fictitious card, and they're starting to use it at other places. And guess what? We can't. Did you do this? Did you not do this? What's that up? Now, you have some countries, oh no, this is invasion of my privacy. But the real reason that we need this, you need to make sure, I understand guarding that number, make sure your bank and every card company you have has your cell number. And here's what I'd say to you is, don't assume they have your cell numbers. Stop for a moment. How long has it been since you opened that checking account or that business checking account or you got that credit card? Guess what? That information is 10 years old. Well, I haven't moved. Well, maybe I don't have my home phone number anyway, but I might. But guess what? They don't have your cell number. One of the things we stress to our staff all the time, when you have time, look at the customer's account and say, oh, Miss Mellinger, notice we don't have your cell number. Do you mind if we get it just in case we have to call you, in case of emergency? Limit usage of ATMs when you travel. Now, again, some people don't want to use a lot of cash anyway. And again, I'm not necessarily talking about maybe a bank ATM, but again, remember, when you travel, where are the crooks going to gravitate towards? They're going to gravitate towards where tourists are, and this first time you've used that ATM, first time you've gone there. Look, you can use your debit card and you can get cash back. So why not, if you're in Orlando, and I don't know all the stores in Orlando, that wasn't my best trip. Mickey was not one of my favorites. But there has to be a grocery store there that you can go in and buy a pack of gum and get $50 back. Just look around town here. You can go to Kroger's, you get cash back. You go to Food City, you get cash back. You go to Tractor Supply, you get cash back. Why go to an ATM when you can come inside and feel like I'm using something that is basically monitored by a human being 24/7? Versus a little ATM stuck in a convenience store that you kind of have to wipe the dust off of it anyway when you go to use it. If you were a crook, where are you going to try to install the the machine that captures stuff? You're going to do it at the convenience store. So limit usage of ATMs when you travel. Again, we talked about special accounts and special cards. And here's something that has been around for a little bit, but you may not have been using or activating. And again, this is for any kinds of cards. consumer cards, business cards, debit cards, credit cards. They're called special functions. Our bank offers this, most institutions do now. Basically what I do with my card, I have a limit of X. But I don't need X. So I say, yeah, I want my daily limit on my card to be $100. I set my own limit. I can go to this, and it's a mobile kind of function, mobile function, and I can say, I don't want my card to be used outside of a certain geographical area. I ain't in Florida right now, so there's no reason for my card to be used in Florida. So, and I can even turn my card off, turn it on. You've seen some ads that it is a great, great service. And, you know, there's a few, it's like anything with technology. It takes a little while. Okay, here's what I do, here's how I do it. But once you get it in place. Now, for parents, it's a great thing because if you have a child who has a card and they're going away to college, you can say, you go to the grocery store, but you can't go to another certain type of store. So there's even those kinds of benefits as well. Now, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about credit. Have y'all heard a story about this? What's the name of the company? Equifax? Something happened with it. I don't know exactly, but well, you need to check your credit annually. It amazes me that people will go to the dentist every 6 months, check my teeth. Hey, French, I'm here. Let's see how we're doing. Hey, Doc, you know, I'm here. Let's go ahead and do the physical. Why don't you do a physical on your credit? Why don't you have your credit cleaned every 6 months? Because what happens is that, you know, sometimes we might go 2, 3, or 4 years that we don't use our credit. Didn't buy a car, didn't buy a house, right? Not applying for a new credit card. Guess what happened? Time goes quick. So, why not think about, oh, we're falling back. Oh, we're going to change the battery. Remember, hon, we got to change the batteries this weekend because time falls back. Remember, we always change the batteries in the smoke detector. Well, why not smoke out your credit? Why not pick a time of the year when these little things kind of remind you, fall back, smoke detector, check my credit. So, now, let's go back on what I do. The other thing about, you know, in terms of your credit is remember that a lot of the card companies, like my credit card, they actually show my credit score. I go in and look at it every month, and it kind of has a graph. Well, guess what? If all of a sudden your graph kind of dips, you go, wait a minute, I didn't do anything. Haven't not paid my payments late. Haven't, you know, taken $3,000 down from my credit card, which could negatively impact. I haven't done anything. So why did it dip? Remember, that's another little bit of an alert, isn't it? It's an indirect alert, but it's still an alert. And in terms of credit, also remember that, you know, car loans and home loans and so forth are expected, but one of the things that will lower the credit score is the number of opening credits, a Lowe's card, a credit card, and those kinds of things as well. Now, one of the things that you'll hear is that you can freeze your credit. And people say, oh no, you shouldn't freeze your credit because if you do that, you know, there's going to be a cost, but all of a sudden you just can't go down to the car place this weekend and buy a car. Okay, it's just like you woke up Saturday morning at 8 o'clock and you said, hey hon, guess what? I'm going out for waffles and buy a car. Do you really do that? Or is this something you think about and you talk about, say, you know, Amy, I think, you know, the car's on sale. I said, we probably need to start looking around and oh yeah, since we're going to go look for a car, why don't we contact the credit company and have them unfreeze our credit? Now, you say, but Leton, you're a banker and don't you want to have access to my credit and stuff? Well, look, if you're going to come in and talk to us about borrowing money and we can't pull your credit, It's not like we're going to say, Kathy, go away. We can't pull up your credit. We're going to say, oh, Kathy, one of the things we're going to need you to do before we complete this process is contact the credit company and have them freeze your account. We'll pull the credit report and you can freeze it. Doesn't bother me as a banker that you freeze your credit. Matter of fact, I think it might not be a bad thing to do. Now, another thing that and it gets back to an earlier slide that I really encourage all of you to do. And at the end here, when we come out of the presentation, we're going to pull something up and we're going to do a little fun thing here in the audience. But before you go there, this one is called Basic Rules Password Strength. And this is a website that's called How Secure Is My Password? So at the end, we might even kind of have a little game show. You know, we'll have people come up and type in the password they're using, and we'll see how secure it really is. And then we'll give you some hints for things that you can do to make it more. Another aspect, because things are going to happen. You know, if you're around for long enough, things are going to happen. So part of that process will relate to how do I react? Where are my tools? Again, you drive a car. You've driven the same car 6 years, and all of a sudden you have a flat tire. Do you know where your spare is? Do you know where the jack is? Would you be driving around in a car without a spare tire? Would you be driving around without a jack in the back of the car? You don't have to answer that, Jim. I don't want to embarrass you. So, the government has a great site. It's called identitytheft.gov. Save it as a favorite on your computer. Save it as a favorite on your phone. Again, when do you need the spare tire? I got a flat. This, and again, the other part of it is if something happens to you, I can guarantee you it's going to be an emotional event. You're going to be afraid. You're going to start thinking about, oh my gosh, what all do they have? What all does this mean? What about my money? What about my... All these terrible, terrible, terrible thoughts are going to run through your mind. That is why you need to have something that at least gives you some guidance to how you react, to what you do. Now, there was another slide. I did get in this one, but the other thing, I had a slide in here about our insurance. We just happen to have insurance with the Travelers, and the Travelers has a great website that's specifically geared for cyber education, protection, and those kinds of things. So, both as a consumer and as a business, you know, in addition to knowing what your deductible is on your car, go to that insurance company's website. Search, and they will have someplace on that insurance company's website about their cyber insurance. Most homeowners' policies now have some kind of cyber coverage or benefit. As a business, you need to make sure that when you deal with your insurance agent and your company, that you really understand, one, what's covered under my basic policy, or two, what do I need to get in terms of cyber insurance coverage. But in addition to that, make sure that just like that link that we showed you, identity.gov, you have that link saved relative to cyber insurance or other kinds of loss of insurance as well. Now, you know, oftentimes, you know, we think about the crook. You know, again, the guy is sitting behind the computer and he's just, you know, all to pieces and he's going to attack you. But again, I want to remind you that just as much what the industry sees as losses, it comes from those people. It comes from internal people, people who get angry, employees, or also people who do things that they shouldn't do. You know, there's going to be lots and lots of challenges, both to you as a business and as a consumer. But remember that you're up to the challenge. And if you stop and think about your financial health, your business financial health and well-being, how much time do you spend thinking about that or doing things or taking steps to help out versus all these other things you do? In today's world, it's just part of the process. My grandparents did not have access to physicians. They couldn't go for an annual physical. I am blessed. I can do that now. They couldn't. The only reason that you can't do these things that we talk about protecting yourself, learning how to protect yourself, setting up processes mentally and otherwise, is simply because it hasn't come into your focus. It has to be a part of what you do. Tell you what, why don't you go ahead and pull up the password. What I want to show you here, and then we'll take maybe some questions if anybody has questions. And I don't know, Jennifer, if just the people in this room can ask questions or folks out there.
They can. I put it online.
Okay.
Ask you questions.
But Kathy, I'm going to pick on you. Come up here. And you don't have to tell us what the password is.
I'm going to use the weakest one I have.
Right, yeah. I want you to type in the password that you used. All right. Now, if you'll notice, as she went through here, I tell you what, erase that and start over again, and just type one letter at a time. And we'll mention. Okay. So type the first letter. All right. I don't even know what a picosecond is, but I'm assuming that ain't very long. All right. So you can see here how long it would take to crack it. Now add a second letter. Okay. We went. Oh man, we really went from picoseconds to nanoseconds. Go ahead. 4 microseconds. Wait a minute. That one's instantly. That one is used, whatever those 4 letters or numbers were, is used so much that they don't even need picoseconds to crack it. It's instant. All right? Okay, keep going. All right, now, what I want you to do is, I want you to go back all the way to the beginning. All right, and I want you to type the first 2 letters, the same, just like we regularly did. Now, the third letter, I want you to put the pound symbol in. All right, and then the next letter, I want you to do a capital, assuming that it wasn't capital before. Now type out the rest of your password just as you did. Aha. All she did, she basically used the same password with 2 differences. Here, she input a symbol. Here, instead of using just the regular letter, because see, we type passwords like we think we're typing a letter, don't we? Oh, the first one's a capital, and then the rest of them are small. And then we always put numbers and other kind of crap at the end. Right? Now, what if, so you saw how Kathy went from 4 days to 6 years. Now, Kathy put another symbol at the end. 400 years. Now, what if with all of your passwords, you kind of keep the same kind of password and you develop your own routine. And your routine is, I'm always going to have the third letter or the third spot be a symbol. And I'm always going to have the 4th spot be a capital. And I'm always going to stick something at the end. And guess what? If you want to stick a $sign at the end and that's always your sum, or if the $sign's your third and the asterisk at the end, it doesn't really matter, because what you have done is you have created something that will makes it much more difficult. We went from 4 days, what was it, 600 years or something like that?
It was 6 years.
6 years.
Then it went to
Way out.
way out, but then I started checking my other passwords.
All right. All right. Now, what we will do is, again, with this, how secure is my password? You can just Google it, but anybody needs the link, we'll be happy to send you.
How secure is my password.net?
Yeah. How secure is my password.net?
Oh, Lord, now you got me. Now you got me another job.
All right. And I tell you what, we'll take some questions. Why don't you see if you can pull up
Okay, I'll see
the
what's
side.
loading.
So, again, a little time, a little effort, a little thought will make your life a lot easier. And be aware that when you travel, your risk for all these things that we talked about goes up exponentially. So, Jennifer, be happy. Questions here? Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question. Recently, we're hearing a lot about these little, for lack of a better word, I'm just going to call it a gizmo that criminals are able to put on password card readers like gas terminals.
Yes.
How do you check for that? How do you know if that's good?
It's very difficult. We have, one of the things I would say to you is, again, the scenario of convenience versus security, all right? At your home, you might have just one door handle locked. And you go home and you say, look, I want more than that. I'm going to put a deadbolt on it. So now you got to drill the hole, put the deadbolt in, all that kind of stuff. And now when you get home, and maybe it's a different key. Maybe it's the same key. But anyway, when you get home, now you got to do that, and you got to do that. What I would say to you is one of the best ways to avoid all that is you go inside and pay. Now, is that convenient? Is that something you really want to do? Maybe, maybe not. But because what I want to tell you is when you're there at that pump or you're at an ATM someplace, you're going to put yourself at risk. So the question then becomes, how much risk can I tolerate? Now, second thing. So now you're going to the Chevron, on 19. You know the people there, mostly local people there, stuff like that. You kind of feel around, you see if there's anything stuck, glued on, anything looks out of the ordinary. Maybe you walk around and you look at another one on this side versus that side. If you're a crook, again, are you going to think about which gas pump you use? You pull up, and here you are on this side, and here's the gas pump, and here's the other gas pump, and then here's the convenience store. But if you're a crook and you're trying to stick something on the gas pump, are you going to do it on the side? Hey, yeah, I'm putting this on your gas pump right here. Hey, look at me. Or are they going to go on this side? Simple things like, oh, I know I have to swing around because my gas tank's on the left-hand side, but I'm going to swing around and I'm always going to use the gas pump that faces the store and where they have clear directions. So, yes, look at things. Those things look like they could be, feel around. Just feel around some. But the other part of it is use some common sense. Hey, here I am in Atlanta. I've never, I don't know about this place. I'm probably never going to be here again. I think this time, that extra 30 seconds it takes me to go inside the store and say, hey, I'm going to get some gas. Here's my card. Or even, locally, think about which sides that you happen to use. But there's going to be a risk there. And you're right, even with banks in terms of devices and stuff, our people are constantly going out checking the ATMs for those kinds of devices. Did that help? Okay.
What about the difference between a credit card and a debit card?
Well, generally, a credit card will have, some more protection than a debit card. But we always suggest to our customers to use their debit card as a Visa, or what they call credit. Now, and merchants will know that it costs them more as the merchant to process it as a credit card than a debit. Debit cards were started many, many, many years ago when people wanted to use their ATM cards, Nita, to buy things at the grocery store. So it's really like two different networks. So the debit cards were private networks, and therefore it costs less. Generally what we tell people, if you're going to be traveling, things like that, or use your credit card. But also we have people who don't want credit cards, or they may not have a high enough limit or that kind of stuff. So what we tell them, if you do use your debit card, generally try to use it as a Visa. At a minimum, you're not having to put your PIN number in, so like what she was talking about, they may capture your card information, but they don't capture your PIN. They get half the load, but they don't get the whole load. And the other aspect, again, there is, if you need cash back, like we told you earlier, you're at Myrtle Beach or Florida, whatever, and you go into Publix or whoever, and you get it, use your PIN number there, because guess what? I'm inside. They're looking at this machine 24 hours a day. I'm talking to a real person. Again, still risk, but not as much risk.
It's not loading.
Yeah, this is a cool site, and sometimes you have to, we're on the Wi-Fi here with Jennifer and him, but this is called the North site. A while ago when we showed you well, Kathy's going to take care of it for me. But anyway, this will show you all the different places that are being identified by this network where people are coming in and but it's pretty intense. So. Do we have any other questions?
No one said anything, Greg.
All right. Okay. But this might just be a site that you could.
Let me put that up there a minute, because I need it for this.
3 seconds, huh? Okay.
I want to ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a little bit unrelated, but recently I was at a convention at the Operating Hill.
Uh-huh.
And so when I checked in, there was little cards all over the check-in desk that said, if you're using your debit card, please know that we're going to charge a hold on your card for, like, I think it was $50 a day through the end of your stay.
Yeah.
Which I didn't make.
Well, and that's one of the things where it's better to have maybe a credit card than use a debit card. What happens is, what's that?
Prestigious properties.
Yeah, prestigious properties. But basically what happens is, there you go. These are attacks that are taking place right now. In other words, what you see is where the attacks are coming from and where they're going to.
So we can.
And I just find it interesting. So you can see attacks emanating out of Washington, going to Washington and things like that. Think about it this way. They do the same thing in terms of your credit card, but what happens is, you have a line of credit with your credit card. You don't really notice it. With your debit card, which is tied to a checking account, they put a hold on it. You go look, you can see there's a hold on your account. So those things actually occur with both cards. Just the difference is, when they put it against your credit card, they're putting it against your line of credit, and here they're putting it against your account. But, so you can see again, like I said, where all these attacks, the system is monitoring where people are pinging, trying to get into different businesses or government entities or those kinds of things. And actually, again, if you load this up, yourself, it will give you a list at the bottom here of where they're coming from, where they're going, what kind of systems they're trying to attack. Our bank probably has 4,000 or 5,000 attacks a month, where people come knock on the door, see if they can get in. They can't get in, they go away. And that's part of us maintaining firewalls and all those other kinds of things. Yeah, you might just have to. That's fine.
Yeah.
An article that was running it on the other side. It's crazy.
what were those things, those lava lamps? This kind of has that lava lamp effect on me, so. All right.
So is this a company or something that's?
Yeah, this is an entity, Norris Corp, and also they provide services and things, but they also kind of monitor all this network and stuff. And there's some other companies that are out there like that as well, but this is just one I came across. And you can see, again, here's Seattle, and we think about Seattle as being places where people, but look at how many attacks are coming out of Seattle, and they're trying to hit New York, which probably means they're trying to attack, Wall Street or something like that. And again, China, if you really look, what's interesting, when you look at China, you'll see things coming out of China, but guess what? You don't see things going into China. Well, are there any more questions?
Now where is that
The website,
The-
that is going, that is pending on the other side of China? Left to your left.
Here,
Left.
Here?
No, up one more. Left. Yeah.
That's Russia.
No, right here.
Yeah,
the big white dot.
yeah,
Big white dot.
up here. Yeah, that's probably Russia. Oh, here.
No, it's not.
Oh, that is around Kuwait. 'Cause, see, you have Iran and Iraq and Saudi Arabia. So,
Wow. Very interesting.
well, thanks to everyone and those folks who are online. We'll be providing information to Nita, the PowerPoint, also any of the links that we've given today. And like I said, a lot of challenges, but remember that it's just a question of, do you lock your door or not? And also, if you'll do reasonable, simple things, like we talked about with the gas pump, just kind of use common sense, you'll be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I thought that was very good and some very interesting information that I had never heard before, so thank you very much, Leton. Next week, let me find myself. Next week we have overtime rules. It is going to be presented by Mark Graham and the Human Resource Director at Emory-Henry College, and they will be talking about all of the overtime rules that affect your business and how they affect your business. I want to call attention to two more things before we go off the air. The business challenge is gearing up. We will start on July the 23rd, on January the 23rd, and the deadline to enter the business challenge is January the 8th this year. So we have $15,000 in cash awards, and we have another $8,000 in in-kind services to give away to some lucky business startup and expanding existing business. Also, the new Washington County, Virginia magazine is out. Please get a copy when you go out, and there's a really nice article about all of the services that we provide with our partners as far as small business development is concerned.
Chamber of Commerce.
And you can get these at the Chamber of Commerce if we run out here. So thank you, and we'll see you next week.